Glow Ghost. Hand spinner fidget. Continue, if you dare. Ah!
This project is going to be very similar to some of my other builds, so I'll reference different things here. First of all, we're using glow-in-the-dark paint, and this can get kind of expensive. I got this can for half price because it didn't have a lid, so I just had one of my old lids, put glow on top, boom, save the money. We're actually going to use these black beads, and I'll put the reference down below. And we're going to use these iridescent marbles. The iridescent marbles are about 16 millimeters, and these are right around 14 millimeters, or around half an inch. So the Forster bits we're going to use is 16, a half inch, and a 22 for the center. Use any kind of bearings. I just happen to have some reds here. Make sure that you take off the red gasket off the back side, and that will help speed it up. You could clean these bearings out, and I may still do that, but I really like how quiet they are. Sometimes when you clean them out, they get a little noisy. I did some prototype testing. I took a piece of scrap plexiglass, I sprayed it with the glow, used a black marker to make the eyes, and then I clear coated it. You can see where I kind of scratched it off there. You have to really wait until this thing is dry, probably in 24 hours, maybe more, and then hit it with a clear coat, and that will seal everything in and protect the glow. But you can see after you put the clear coat on, you can scrape it on all day. And we're only going to do the top and the side. We're going to kind of leave the other end to kind of give it a funky look. So we'll see how that turns out. Here's the Fidget outline. I'll post down below how you can get this. You take and cut these out, put some double-sided tape on the back. Doesn't have to be really fancy. This one's a little better than this one. This one's got some wrinkles in it. I was rushing the job. But if you push it down tight, it'll be fine. And then if you have some here on the end, just fold it over like that, or not. It'll all work out fine. I think it's funny, this actually says permanent, yet you can pull it off the plexiglass. Ironic. Here the cutouts are mounted on the plexi, ready to go. You could use the coping saw. I'm going to use a scroll, or what some people call a jigsaw, to cut them out. And you can see how tight I lay these out. I probably could make a little additional one here if I'm careful, depending on how I cut around there. So this is what it looks like after I've cut it from the big chunk. You can see I've taped it on the bottom. And then a file to do some of the rough stuff, and then I start out with 100 grit sandpaper, and then I go to 180. Here are the pieces after a little bit more cut out. Here's the scrap. So you can see I try to do as close as I possibly can. From a symmetry, weight, all that stuff, you want to really try to get it as close to the black line without going over. There I kind of shaved his head a little bit. But easy goes, so he probably doesn't care. Oh, look at that, I shaved this head too. No matter how much you use a scroll saw or jigsaw or coping saw, there are going to be times when you're less than perfect. And that's okay. Since I'm going to have different measurements, one 16 millimeter for the marbles and half inch for these black beads, I marked both of the fidgets so I won't get the holes messed up. This is a 16 millimeter hole. This is actually designed for the marbles, and it's fine as long as you go right to the center. You can put any shape in there you want. So the final sanding's been done. Pretty happy with it. I've taped the backs for extra protection. Now it's going into the drill phase. You could use a drill press. I've been using hand drill. It's working fine. Out of all the fidgets I've made, I made a little one crooked last time on the ruby red, and I was able to sand it out and fix it with some super glue. I'll reference some areas below for how you make these holes. Basically, you use a piece of wood and you clamp it here. I actually run a piece of really thin plywood over the top in addition to taping the back so that I'm protecting the plexi as much as I can. Using the little bit of scrap here, because I always test things out on scrap. You don't test it out on your original stuff, because if you mess up, then you have to start all over again. Grooved in some holes with the intention of doing this. Tried a whole bunch of different ways to do that, but ultimately the best way it came down to is a drill bit in a Dremelish kind of tool. Now this is really kind of optional. You really could just put the black dot on top of the surface and you're probably completely fine, but I just thought the indentation would be a little fun. Alright, so I went around and I did this. I realized these all looks kind of rough, like it's been through a war, and in a sense it has, but you can kind of see where I've went in and dremeled that. Now the 1/2 inch Fortner bit did not do the job completely for these beads, so I had to go in there and actually use this grinder to go in and make the hole big enough so that the beads would go in. Even that one doesn't want to cooperate. The next thing we're going to do is peel all this off, retape the back, and then hit it with some glow coat to make it look like this, to make it glow. Unwrap the thing, take off all the wrapping. If you didn't care and wanted the coating on both sides, then you wouldn't have to even tape the back, but I'm trying to get some sort of transparency on the back of the Fidget. If you don't happen to have a Dremel tool, you could use a round file and clean it all out, and it would do pretty much the same thing. In fact, I'm seeing now that I've pulled the stuff off, I can see how they're kind of not circular, so I'm going to kind of finish that up with the round file. Actually, maybe I would just forego the entire Dremel thing. I would just do the 1/2 inch drill bit or Fortner bit and then do that. And you can see that it passes through now. It's fairly loose on all of these. And that's okay, because once you paint it, the paint's going to go down there a little bit. And I used paint in some of my previous builds to, I want to file that one out a little bit more, to help as almost as a glue. And the paint will cover up some of the mistakes that you had. Actually scratched it here and a little scratch there, and the paint will go through it. So see, it looks a little better after you take all the tape off. This one here is the marble one with the 16mm Forstner bit, and I think that's going to be fine. That was a pretty easy, just drill and you go. The only thing you had to worry about is this distance here. That was very close to the circle, didn't want to crack through that. That's why I actually made it a little wider here on the ends. Here's the marble Fidget. You can see it goes right through the holes. Tape the back and spray paint it with glow, then seal it with clear and sunken in the eyes, kind of like what I've done here on this prototype. So now we're taped and ready for the glow paint. Kind of a little quick job and then a little more detailed job. Want to see if it at all matters. I'll report that out after we've done the spray painting. We have 2 glow Fidgets now. What I did is I sprayed, I altered, since I had 2, I put the eyes on one side on the shiny side. You can kind of see that there. And then I did the eyes on the paint side to see if there was any difference. Now I just need to clean up the edges a little bit where the paint was. And that'll be the next stage, markering in the eyes. Tell you what, I'm really sold on this deburring tool. You don't necessarily need to get this one, but if you're going to do any kind of building, the deburring tools are really good, because you paint over, and what was a tight fit before becomes an impossible fit without scraping out the inside. And whether you're using steel, plastic, aluminum, PVC, copper, iron pipe. This is a deburring tool. It's probably runs around 10-15 bucks, and it's worth its weight in gold. I've used it all the time for all sorts of little builds to kind of clean things up, and it really does the job and saves a lot of time. And once it's cleaned out a bit, it fits in there beautifully. As far as the eyes, it's going to take a couple rounds of getting it right. You're going to have to go in there, let it dry a little bit, and then hit it again with a permanent marker. So this is like twice. I'll probably hit it one more time to get all the details down, and then it's off to getting the marbles or the beads in there and finishing up the build.
And there you go. Glow Ghost Fidgets. This is the rig I used to shoot the opening sequence. Thumbs up and comments always appreciated. Thanks for watching. New builds coming soon.